Cold open. The phone call that changed everything. Welcome to the channel, and if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing. The phone rang at 3:07 a.m. I still remember the way my sister's voice cracked, not from tears, but from the weight of a lie she'd rehearsed. "I need help," she whispered. I drove through the rain, convinced this was just another mess I'd clean up, like always. By sunrise, my name was on loan documents I'd never seen. And her texts stopped for good. But back then, I didn't know our story had already penned Betrayal's new address. Let me take you to that apartment, the one with peeling yellow wallpaper, where we shared instant noodles and secrets, where I believed loyalty was a currency that couldn't expire. She'd borrowed my clothes, my couch, my trust. It never occurred to me she'd take my future, too. Or that the man who held my hand at breakfast would be holding hers by dinner. That night, as I stared at the ceiling, I didn't cry. I counted. Debts, lies, exit routes. And somewhere in that arithmetic, I found a single truth. Survival isn't a team sport. But this isn't where the story ends. Sisterhood, bonds forged in fire. But to understand how we got to that call, we need to go back to the beginning. Picture a rusty trailer park on the edge of town, two girls sharing a bunk bed. She'd sneak into my blanket during thunderstorms, her cold feet against my legs. At 12, I taught her how to hotwire a microwave when the power got cut. By 16, we were stitching each other's prom dresses from thrift store curtains. We didn't have parents. We had each other. When her boyfriend hit her, I showed up with a tire iron. When collectors pounded on our door, I lied through my teeth. She doesn't live here. Every scar on her became mine. I thought that's how love worked. Absorption. The night she miscarried at 19, I held her hair back and promised through clenched jaws, no one fucks with us. We carved initials into the trailer's rotting steps. S+S versus the world. But trailers rot faster than memories. That same step collapsed under my weight the day I signed her bail. I should have noticed the wood turning to dust beneath us. Cracks in the facade, the first red flags. But even bonds forged in fire can develop cracks when tested by new flames. That night, The first warning came disguised as ordinary moments, the kind you only recognize as disasters in hindsight. She started borrowing cash just until Friday, but Fridays turned into months. Her explanations grew vague, sentences trailing off like smoke. "You worry too much," she'd laugh, hugging me too tight. Yet when collectors called, her phone mysteriously died. Then there was Mark, my Mark, the one who brought me tulips every payday. And when I had her baby, I should have noticed the wood turning to dust beneath us. Then there was Mark, my Mark, the one who brought me tulips every payday. I should have noticed the wood turning to dust beneath us. By sunrise, my name was on loan documents. I lied through my teeth. A single truth: survival isn't a team sport. But this isn't where the story ends. The first warning came disguised as ordinary moments, the kind you only recognize. I didn't notice her lingering by his motorcycle that Sunday barbecue, how their jokes suddenly had private punchlines. When I walked in on them whispering in the kitchen, she spun a story about planning my birthday surprise. I wanted to believe, needed to. The lies calcified. Her new job required my signature on documents she swore were routine. "Trust me," she said, her palm over mine, the same hand that once held me steady during Dad's rages. That's the poison of betrayal. It weaponizes your own history against you. By autumn, her eyes never quite met mine. She'd vanish for days, returning smelling of my perfume. When I asked about the withdrawals from our joint account, she cried trauma from our childhood. So I apologized. Paid. Covered. The final rent flag wasn't a grand gesture, just silence. She stopped calling me Sissy, that silly nickname from our bunk bed nights. When I mentioned it, she said I was imagining things. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. And all my memories were established unhappy. And like a fool, starving for crumbs, I agreed. The trap, a betrayal written in blood and lies. The night she asked me to sign the insurance forms, I didn't think twice. We sat at her kitchen table, the same one where we'd shared childhood secrets, and she slid the papers toward me with trembling hands. "It's just to speed things up," she whispered, eyes pleading. I scribbled my name without reading. 2 days later, my bank called. She'd taken a $50,000 loan in my name. When I demanded answers, she staged a scene, sobbed to our parents that I had forged her signature. They believed her. Then my boyfriend confessed they'd been sleeping together for months. She said you were done with me, he admitted. I stood there, holding his text thread with her. Plans to drain my accounts, jokes about my naivety. Betrayal isn't a single cut. It's 1,000 paper wounds, each tiny, but together they bleed you dry. I spent weeks paralyzed. How had I missed it? Was I that blind? But survival kicks in. I went to the police with every screenshot, every forged document, filed reports, joined a fraud victims group, learned to say, no, I won't explain myself again, to relatives. Here's what you need to know. When trust is weaponized, facts are your armor. Save every text. Record calls. Check local laws. Tell one trustworthy person immediately. Isolation is the trap's final latch. And if your hands shake as you rebuild, let them. Shaking hands still turn keys. Sign checks, close doors. You'll relearn trust, not in others, but in your own resilience. The scars? They're just proof you fought smarter the second time. Freefall, losing everything but my name. The repo men came at dawn. I watched from the sidewalk as they hooked my car, the one I'd slept in for weeks, to their truck. My sister's laughter echoed in my head. Who'd believe you? I clutched my last suitcase, shivering in pajamas. No home, no credit, no family. Just my name on debts I didn't owe. But names can be reclaimed. At the library, I printed every fraud report, every text proving her lies. A legal aid volunteer helped freeze my credit. Nights, I attended a support group, women who'd lost homes to relative scams. One handed me a blanket. Sleep here tonight. We'll figure tomorrow together. Freefall teaches you 3 things. 1, breathe before you bleed. Panic drowns logic. I wrote 1 task daily. Email lawyer. And then we all rebuild our strength. When we do it, we grow. When we return back to normal. When we outperform the past, we have to rebuild. And then we fall. This is masterful. But lessons, just my name, on debts I didn't owe. But names can be reclaimed. At the light, buy groceries. Tiny steps anchor you. 2. Let strangers save you. Pride dies in freefall. Accept the couch, the meal, the bus fare. 3. Your name isn't your shame. I reintroduced myself at job interviews. I'm name. I survived betrayal. That's my credential. When the police finally charged her, I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. Me. You don't climb from freefall. You rebuild wings mid-air. Start with the first feather. Say your name aloud. Without flinching. Hashtag, the night I stopped crying. A spark in the ashes. That night, I sat on the bathroom floor of a shelter, my knees pulled to my chest, staring at a cracked tile. No tears left, just silence. Then a knock. Mrs. Rivera, the elderly volunteer, slid a mug of tea under the door. "Drink," she said. "Then come help me sort donations." Her voice held no pity, just expectation. I sipped bitter chamomile, hands steady, for the first time in months. In the storage room, she handed me a notebook. "Write what you need," she said. "Not want, need." I listed. 1. Legal aid contact. 2. Budget plan. 3. 1 meal a day. She nodded. "Now how do you get each?" Step by step, we mapped it. No grand plans, just next day actions. By dawn, I'd emailed 3 lawyers, applied for food stamps, texted my support group. "Can someone drive me to court Tuesday?" Mrs. Rivera tapped my list. "Add this. Ask for help. Say no. Repeat." When my sister called weeks later, I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. Me. When my sister called weeks later, I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. When my sister called weeks later, I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. First and foremost, let strangers save you. Crying about eviction. I didn't hang up, didn't yell. I said, "Here's the shelter's address. They have forms to fill out." Thanks. I turned to our support group. I had to deal with her emotionally and thank her for letting me hang up. Crying about eviction. I didn't hang up, didn't yell. I said, "Here's the shelter's address. They have forms to fill out." Then my sister called weeks later. I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. Me. When my sister called weeks later, I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. Me. In my simple words, I said, "Write what you need." And we met. Just next day actions. By dawn, I'd emailed 3 lawyers, applied for food stamps, texted my support group. "Can someone drive me to court Tuesday?" Mrs. Rivera tapped my list. I didn't cheer. I thanked the woman who'd become my witness. Me. And we met just next day actions. By dawn, I'd emailed that spark? It's not courage. It's practicality. You stop begging the past for answers and start using the present to build. If you're here now, 1. Write 3 needs. 2. Next to each, 1 action. 3. Do the first, then the next. The fire that burns you also lights the way, if you let it. Rebuilding, stone by stone, the Phoenix curriculum. The storage room smelled of detergent and dust. I was sorting donated clothes when a young woman entered, eyes hollow like mine once were. She clutched a toddler, whispering, "My brother took my car." Mrs. Rivera nodded toward me. "Show her the forms." My hands didn't shake as I handed her the resource packet. Rebuilding isn't about grand gestures. It's the Phoenix curriculum. 3 rules I live by now. Audit the rubble. That first week, I listed every loss: credit score, family trust, self-worth. Not to dwell, but to measure progress. 2. Mortar before bricks. I fixed my sleep schedule before tackling debt. Ate vegetables before negotiating payment plans. Stable foundations first. 3. Boundaries as blueprints. When cousins demanded I forgive and forget, I said, I'll consider it during my scheduled call hours. They stopped calling. Today, my credit's cleaner than my sister's conscience. I volunteer at the shelter every Thursday. When newcomers ask how I survived, I show them my curriculum, not as a manual, but proof that stones fit any hands willing to stack them. Mrs. Rivera once told me, scorched earth grows the strongest roots. She was right. I water mine daily, with receipts, therapy sessions, and the quiet power of locking doors behind me. Their knock at the door, testing my new armor. The knock came at 8 p.m. 3 sharp raps. Through the peephole, her face, swollen from crying, mascara streaked. Please, she begged. They'll take my apartment. My chest tightened, but my hands stayed steady. I'd rehearse this. Here. I handed her the packet I kept by the door. Shelter contacts, debt counseling numbers, a food bank schedule. She stared, incredulous. You'd let me starve? No, I said, but I won't bleed for you either. When she spat curses, I closed the door gently. No slamming, no shaking. Later, I texted her caseworker. A precaution, not revenge. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters, letting compassion flow without drowning. Here's how to build yours. 1. Prepare scripts. Mine? I can't help financially, but here's where you can. Repeat, no negotiations. 2. Keep proof nearby. My packet had dates of her past lies. Not to shame her, but to remind me. Debrief with someone safe. I called my support group lead. Did I handle it right? Yes. Months later, she emailed, you were cruel. I replied, I was kind, to us both. Now, when new survivors whisper, what if they come back? I show them my door, still unlocked, but with a stronger frame. Help doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes, the bravest love is saying enough while handing them the map to save themselves. The art of war in stilettos, my final countermove. The courtroom air smelled like stale coffee and anxiety. She sat across from me. Same trembling lips, same tear-streaked cheeks that once fooled judges and family. This time, I wore a navy suit, not pajamas. My evidence folder bulged. Bank records, forged signatures, texts plotting my ruin. When the bailiff called my name, I stood slowly, heels clicking like a metronome. Months earlier, I'd hired a forensic accountant. Not for revenge, but clarity. We traced every stolen dollar, every manipulated loan. My lawyer warned, they'll paint you as heartless. I nodded. Let them. On the stand, I answered plainly. Yes, I co-signed the first loan. No, I didn't authorize these. When her lawyer sneered, why didn't you stop her sooner? I said, I trusted my sister. Trust isn't a crime. The judge awarded me restitution, but I didn't celebrate. Outside, she hissed, you'll regret this. I handed her a card, my therapist's referral. They helped me. Call them when you're ready. War isn't about winning. It's about choosing your weapons. Mine Receipts, not rage. Boundaries, not blame. If they return, 1. Document relentlessly. Save every interaction. 2. Lawyer before lectures. Emotions cloud strategy. 3. Offer resources, not rescue. The judge awarded me restitution, but I didn't celebrate. Outside, she hissed, "You'll regret this. True change needs professional help." That night, I burned the courtroom papers in my backyard. Not to erase the past, to fuel tomorrow's light. As the ashes rose, I whispered, "Checkmate," and meant it. The mirror shows a scar on my shoulder, a burn from the shelter's broken heater. I trace it now, remembering the night I realized scars aren't wounds. After the trial, my therapist asked, "And now?" The mirror shows a scar on my shoulder, a burn from the shelter's broken heater. The mirror shows a scar on my shoulder. I trace it now, remembering the night I realized scars aren't wounds. After the trial, my therapist asked, "What will you do with this?" I didn't answer then. But weeks later, at a support group, a woman gripped my hand, her nails bitten raw. "How'd you get through?" I showed her the scar. "By letting it heal wrong first," I said. "The fire taught me 3 things. 1. Scars need air. Hiding pain slows healing. I share my story openly now, not to dwell, but to disinfect. Compassion has a timer. When my sister's friend called last month, begging me to save her, I set a boundary. I'll listen for 10 minutes. Then we discuss solutions. Medals aren't for display. I volunteer quietly, mentoring fraud survivors, teaching them to freeze credit, spot lies. Mrs. Rivera once said, "The body mends, but the soul needs stitches. Mine are clumsy, thick-threaded, and holding." If you're wearing scars today, clean them, honor them, but never apologize for how they healed. Your survival is the only certificate you need. Closing frame. In the years to come, once I know the truth, I hand the mug, and I say to a woman, "True change needs professional help." Hiding pain slows healing. I share my story openly now. Weeks later, at a support group, A woman gripped my hand, her nails bitten raw. Your turn to rise. Audience call to action. The hardwood chills my bare feet as I stare at the door. Morning light paints the scratches from that night. Her nails, the police boots, my own desperate grip. The lock's been replaced twice, but the frame remembers. So do I. A new ritual. No rushing to answer. No rehearsing apologies. Let it plead. My silence isn't cruelty. It's the cost of learning what warmth really is. The phone rings. The ring. What will you do with this? I didn't answer then. But weeks later, at a support group, a woman gripped my hand, her nails bitten raw, and my own desperate grip. The lock's been replaced twice, but the frame remembers. So do I. Coffee steams in my hands. A new rich I let it. Rebirth isn't dramatic. It's this. Choosing socks over slippers because floors stay cold. Deleting numbers that no longer belong to you. Watching your breath fog the window without writing promises in it. They'll come. They always do. But my hands, they're full, holding the life I finally kept.